Are you a baseball player that wants to throw harder? In this video, I'm going to give you 4 drills to help you throw with more velocity, help you throw harder. Hi, my name is Doug Bernier, ProBaseballInsider.com, and today we're going to run through what makes the elite throwers elite throwers. We're going to run through some common mistakes and then finally give you a progression of 4 drills that you can use that's going to help your velocity. So before we get into this video, I'm assuming that you understand the basic throwing mechanics. And if you don't, that's okay. I have a video for you that I will link at the bottom of this video. But in saying that, I'm assuming you understand basic throwing mechanics, and this video is going to be the next level on ways to get more out of your ceiling, out of your body. Now, first let's talk about what makes the elite throwers the elite throwers. There's basically 4 things that they do better than all of us. So let's go through it. Number 1, they create midline separation from the glove. This one is pretty simple, but they all start from here. The reason is when we can time up the upper half and the lower half properly, it's going to sync us up in a way where we're able to get our maximum velocity throw off. And it starts with starting at the midline. Easy enough. That's an easy fix. The second one, our ball arc. So when we take the ball out of our glove, it's created by getting the ball to the back of the hip. We want to have this motion here where the ball is coming out facing the ground and we're back in this general area. Those first 2 are really simple. Now the third one is basically what separates the elite throwers from everybody else. Once we get to this position, the hips start to fire. When the hips fire, it activates a scap pinch with my elbow and it allows me to start laying the ball back. What's happening here is I'm creating hip-shoulder separation, and the more that I can create, the more torque I'm going to feel in my front side and the more my arm is going to lag behind, so when it is time to throw, it's basically like a whip. This arm is able to rotate through, I'm able to get as much velocity as I can out of my arm, and the result is a stronger throw.
Ground ball. Backhanded Bernier throwing across the diamond, and Colabello's there with the stretch.
So this third point that we're going through is going to be what these drills are formed around, because this is the area that where we can increase our velocity. And then finally, number 4, we want to throw into a firm front side. Now in saying that, my front leg doesn't have to be completely straight as I'm releasing the ball, but what I want is I want to create resistance so I can maximize my rotation. All right, so now you understand what the elite throwers are doing. I want to run you real quickly before we get to the drills. Trust me, they're coming. But the 5 most common issues that take away from our velocity. So think of you turn on the water outside, water's rushing through that garden hose, and when that water pressure comes out and it's coming out hot, that's our velocity. But these common issues we're about to go through, we're just basically poking holes in the side of this hose and water's spurting everywhere. What's happening is we're not getting the same water pressure out of the end of the hose. This is the same thing that happens with our throwing mechanics. If some of these break down along the way through our throwing mechanics, then we're going to lose velocity. So these are some things, I call them common mistakes, but these are actually things that you're going to be able to look for, easily identifiable things when you're videoing your baseball player in his throws. So let's go through it. The very first one is, instead of thinking hip-shoulder separation too much, I like looking at the belly button. So when my feet are planted and I'm about ready to start my move forward, my rotation, if my belly button is facing the same direction as my shoulders, I'm not creating proper hip-shoulder separation. What I want to see when I get to this point is my belly button starting to creep towards my target while my shoulders are facing this direction. So that's an easy thing to see when I'm videoing. That's number 1. Number 2, if this belly button isn't starting to work towards the target, my hips and my shoulders are turning at the same time, thus creating no hip-shoulder separation. We're not using the rubber band. We're basically just throwing with all of our upper body arm strength, which is not going to be it's not going to be the same as if we were rotating properly. As a result of those first 2 is number 3, is where our back foot gets off the ground before the ball is released. When our hips and shoulders turn at the same time, we're basically pulling, using the front side to pull the backside through, and the result is the foot comes off the ground at release. That's not where we want to be. We want to create ground force. And the way to do that is if we initiate properly, we're going to throw, that back foot's going to stay off the ground or on the ground. Then once we release, now our foot can come off the ground. So that's a real key point when we're watching on video. Make sure that back foot is releasing after release of the ball. And then number 4, this is just some basic reminders. We're not using our lower half enough. When we're trying to throw the ball as far as we can, we want to use our legs. It's not only going to take pressure off our shoulder, but it's going to help get us some momentum to get some extra velocity on our throw. And then finally, spin axis. When we can throw the ball and we get this ball spinning backwards, we're not only going to get more carry, which is going to allow the ball to stay in the air longer, but we're also going to keep the ball on a straighter line. It's going to help us in our velocity. All right, so now let's go through the drills. It's a 4 drill progression. You're not going to see instant results after a day or two, but I've done this with a lot of outfielders, high-level outfielders, and I've seen improvement anywhere from a week to a month. So this is something you're going to want to integrate into your catch play, your active catch play, your long toss routine. These are things you'd add into it, supplement with it. Obviously listen to our arm, we don't want to hurt our arm, but supplement, and you will see results after a little bit of time. So this is going to be a progression, and remember, all these drills kind of center around the hip-shoulder separation. So we're going to start with wrong foot throwing drill. So since I'm a right-handed thrower, I'm going to start with my right foot forward. I'm going to be throwing into this net right here. What I'm doing is I'm keeping my belly button facing my target, but I'm going to turn my shoulder. So I'm really trying to fight to keep my belly button straight, turn my shoulders, and I can feel it right in here. That's what I'm aiming for. So I'm here, and then I'm going to throw. I'm going to do about 5 to 10. Do this from a partner about 20 feet away. All I'm doing is just working on loosening my arm, but developing the feel of proper hip-shoulder separation. Next, we're going to add on to that in the swivel drill. So I'm going to turn to the side. I'm going to start with my hands at my chest. I'm going to get off my front heel. I'm going to turn into my back side. And then from here, I'm just going to leave my hands here as long as possible. And then what I'm doing is I'm going to activate or initiate the move with my back hip, and then my arm is just going to come along for the ride. So it might feel a little weird because we're kind of overdoing the sequence here, but that's the point. So I'm going to start with a couple in my glove, turn, boom, and then the arm comes. So I want this arm to be the very last thing. Think of it as the whip. After you do about 3 or 4, then I'm going to put the ball down here like I'm getting into my throwing position. Same thing, boom, and then it's going to come that way. So again, get here, the arm is the last thing to come. I'm going to into that back hip, rotate, and go. So I'm really trying to focus hip first, arm comes second. Next, we're going to do the walking torque. So right-handed thrower, I'm going to go right. I'm keeping my belly button at the target. While I'm doing it, I'm going to turn turn my shoulders as I'm taking a step with my left, and then here I'm going to throw. Now the add-on here, I'm going to make sure I throw, keep my foot on the ground as long as possible. After it's thrown, if I have some momentum bringing that foot off the ground, that's okay. But make sure that foot is on the ground at release. Right? And you can keep the back foot grounded if you want. And then finally, the last drill is we're crow hopping into our long toss. Now, this is not the video to debate crow hop, pro hop. There's a lot of different things you can do from the outfield. But for this drill, we're working on getting some elevation off the ground, like we would if we're an outfielder. We're going old school crow hop, but we're trying to generate enough time so our body is able to create that hip shoulder separation that we've been practicing in the prior 3 drills. We're using this to throw long. 2 to 3 days a week, I would recommend. Listen to your arm. And me personally, this range would be somewhere between 180 and 300 feet. The closer I got to the 300 feet, I'm creating more arc on the throw. As I bring it in, get it closer to 180, now that throw's on a line, I'm throwing it hard, and I'm getting closer to 100% effort. The goal here is you're seeing improvement. If let's say I'm at 250 feet, the first couple days I'm throwing at 80, 90% effort. But then 2 weeks later, I'm able to make that same throw with 60% effort. Now we're starting to gain ground. Now we're starting to gain some velocity. That's what we want. But remember, a key point of this is as we start to bring it in, and we're getting to that 180, 220 range, now we're gonna let it eat. We're gonna keep that ball on a line, and we can even work on long hops, outfielders or infielders. That's a good weapon to use. But this is the time to do it. So we're going to work on come through, get up, and we're going to, remember, work on getting that belly button towards our target, get our shoulders separated, and then come through. Make sure our foot's on the ground as we're making this throw. Start with the ball in our glove. All right, quick note, just because we're doing the crow hop and we're making an outfield move right here, this is for any thrower. This is for infielders, this is for catchers, this is for pitchers, this is for outfielders. So this is anyone that's throwing a baseball that wants to improve their velocity. Run through those 4 drills, you will see an increase in your velocity. It's gonna take some time, but put in the proper work, understand what these drills are addressing, and you will see improvement in your velocity in a short time.